So after 5 months hibernating in Bucharest, I'm back to the boat for another 6 weeks. Maintenance, basically starting off where I left off before, putting things back together. So first morning, I'm already dressed in my rags. I've undone my shipment. I've made a complete mess of the deck, which no doubt will stay like that for at least 6 more weeks. I have a cup of coffee and let the work begin. In this video, we replace the heat exchanger inside the generator, replace the clutch and mainsheet traveller after an accidental gybe, refurbish the drivetrain system right the way from the Aquadrive all the way to the tip of the Gori propeller. We receive and analyse our new Jordan series Drogue, and we clean and rebuild all the Dorade vents. So first day, and we're fully into the challenges. This is a new heat exchanger for the generator. This is the old one, which I'll now keep as spare. But they had put this fitting on so that it was almost touching the other pipe. So, first thing off, take it off so that it can be nicely at right angles. Like this one with that plenty of space there. Can't buy anything without having to do something yourself. So this is where I have to work, in this tiny gap over the back of the generator here. And the heat exchanger is down the bottom there. I'm really not sure if you can actually see, but this is a heat exchanger, this long silver thing here. These are all the new pipes, and it was pretty tricky to get in there. A lot of swearing, but it went in eventually. One job done. So that's the generator with all its covers back on. Meanwhile, the next job today is to replace the stern gland, which is now 12 years old, and that rubber needs to be replaced. And to do that, I have to remove the Aquadrive to get the shaft out. Let's see what we're dealing with here. We start with the stern tube, or the hole in the hull where the propeller shaft enters the boat. Then the shaft seal, which stops the seawater entering between the stern tube and the shaft. If this fails, the boat could sink, hence our desire to renew it. This green piece is the thrust bearing, where the thrust from the propeller is transferred directly to the hull. And this is the CV joint, or universal joint, that loosely links the engine to the propeller shaft. Now let's look at the reason we have this Aquadrive setup between the engine and the propeller. Firstly, we look at the conventional setup, where the propeller thrusts directly onto the engine and the engine then pushes the hull. This transfer of thrust means the engine mounts have to be pretty stiff, which in turn allows a lot of engine noise and vibration transferred to the hull. This setup also requires the engine and the shaft to be perfectly aligned. With the Aquadrive system, the thrust bearing is where all the force is transferred to the hull, and the engine is now only loosely connected to the shaft via the CV joint. With no thrusting force on the engine, the mounts can now be much softer, hence the engine seems much quieter and you feel less vibration on the hull. The CV joint also means the engine can now be mounted more horizontal, and the alignment with the shaft is now less important. Now back to our problem of changing the shaft seal bellows. To do this, we have to remove the propeller shaft from inside it. And to release the shaft, we have to get inside the Aquadrive where it is clamped in place. And to do this, we need to remove the CV joint, none of which is a simple task. So some of these are going quite easily. All of them need a good whack. And of course it's automatic gearbox, so I can't put it in gear. The shaft's turning as I'm hitting. Okay, so I've got all the bolts out. Now what is holding it in? I can be careful here because this damn thing's probably pretty heavy. Oh, I can get one end off or the other, but not apparently both. So I've removed all the bolts from this side, and this CV is completely loose now, but it won't quite come out in that gap. So I'm going to have to take the Aquadrive here backwards by undoing these 4 massive bolts, which bolt it to the boat, just to give it another centimetre or 2. Okay, I've pushed this back just a little bit, not too much. Let's see if we can get it to budge now. Come on, baby, out you come. Come on, you can do it. Yay, I knew you could do it. There, we're out. And interestingly, it smells of really old, like old motor cars, old oil in there. So now inside this thrust bearing, in there, we have the sleeve that grips onto the shaft. What you're actually seeing is the end of the shaft there. So I've got to undo all those bolts and then screw some other bolts into those holes to release the grip on the shaft. Now you may remember that last year we had an accidental gybe which damaged a lot of Mainsheet equipment. So this is the Traveller. The only casualty on the Traveller is one of the blocks. The end of the Traveller just got knocked clean off. That looks like it will go back on again. The biggest casualty was the clutch for the Mainsheet, which got ripped off and smashed to smithereens, covering the deck in all sorts of debris and hundreds of these ball bearings from the Traveller. So as we have to renew the clutch, we've decided to renew all 4 of them, plus reinstall the Traveller car with its right number of tourlon balls. I'm now trying to undo the clutches on the Mainsheet track. This side's easy. I've got the bathroom ceiling down and I've just taken the nuts off of these 2 so I can take those up from above. So these are the clutch bases which are on top of the bathroom down below, which I took the ceiling down yesterday to get to the nuts. The nuts are off. Let's just see if they all move, then I'll get my electric drill and we will buzz them out of here. Good. These are okay, but they've gone sort of yellowish. I wouldn't mind taking them off and painting them, but they're Sikaflex to the deck and they are not moving. So I think we are just going to leave those as they are. Glenn is beaten on that one. So having taken the clutch nuts off in the bathroom, I've now got to get them off here, and they are about there. So I am busy here taking off this winch motor. It's just about to come out. Are you ready? One last bolt to take out of this pig of a place to get into. So, come on, baby, out you come. Yes. Okay, so now that that's out, let me try and show you where I've got to get into. That's where the winch motor was. That's the Mainsheet winch. And the bolts I've got to get to are right up there. So I've got to do a Houdini act with my long arms to try and get it off. Why don't they just put ceilings that can be removed? So here I am, standing on my stool, practicing my gynecological techniques again. It's all done by feel. I've got 2 nuts off, so with my fingertips stretched to the maximum, I could just about get on the nut. Okay, that's those 2 off. Now I've got to try to get up this hole here. Again, totally blind. God damn it. Oh. It's gonna kill me. So tonight I made progress on releasing the propeller shaft from the Aquadrive. I had a real nightmare getting these bolts out because they were so well torqued in. But once I got these out, you have to screw them back through here to actually push it out. Once I had this out, the shaft came out this side, one bang with a hammer, and it was through. So I'm just going to try and get the rest of it out. There you go, there's the end of the shaft, you see? Now if I do that, this will come off. There we go, that's part of the PSS drive. Sorry, PSS seal. And I might take this off and have a quick look inside the bearing if it's not too difficult. It's only these 4 bolts and it's loose already. Now let me see if I can show you inside. But you can see this sleeve here has a split in it. And when this comes over the top of it and is bolted down, it tightens this sleeve onto the shaft and that locks the shaft. Then this side, shaft is here. That's the shaft seal and that's the hole it went into. Now I'm just going to try and loosen up these hose clamps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, will this plug come off, or do I have to cut it off? That's the question. There we go. One old, worn, but actually not too bad shaft seal. So that's the seal. It's literally plastic or something here is. And this metal here. As long as you've got water inside to lubricate it, all is good. So having pulled the shaft back a little bit out of the boat, I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up, because particularly here where it's in the cutlass, it's got some sort of, I don't know, maybe bits of cutlass. I also want to get all this paint off so I can redo the prop speed. So I'm just going to scrape it with a knife and then go over it with some fine wet and dry. Okay, that's it nice and clean and shiny. All the paint off, ready for repainting. More to the point, for once in Cloudy Bay's life, I'm going to get up into that hole, scrape all the barnacles out and put some anti-foul. Cool. Great job. Ready for prop speed. So as this is the first time I've managed to get into the stern tube here, I'm just going to give it some anti-foul. I gave it 1 coat yesterday. So yeah, I'm going to give it 1 more with this nice long roller. Okay, so on this instance I'll allow you to call me silly. What we have here is the clutchy is off, but these have all gone a horrible yellow, and I wanted to paint them, but because I'm sick of flexing to the deck, they ain't coming off no matter how hard I try. So I thought, shall I paint them? But then probably paint would sup into the wood, so I didn't want that. So I'm trying vinyl wrapping. We are going to have them in blue. This is my first attempt and I'm hoping I can only get better. Bear in mind I've never done this before, so please have patience. Did you ever cover your school books with sticky back plastic? This is a bit similar. Clearly I need some practice. Not bad for a first attempt though. It's not exactly an easy shape, is it? You see the nuts on top there. I think I could do better. I think it's actually easier than painting, you know. The problem with painting this is when you mask around it, you can mask as good as you like. You only need a slight little drip of paint down the back of the masking tape and it gets sucked into the teak. So it's really a no-win situation. You might get a beautiful paint job, but you're going to have white all around the bottom of it. Okay, I think I'm getting better at this. So the nice thing about wrapping is that if it doesn't go well, just cut the bloody stuff and start again. It's not like it's expensive. It's very cheap, in fact. I could quite get to enjoy this wrapping, I think. Shrink wrapping like this, not wrapping as in music. I hate rap music. But wrapping with vinyl, I think I could quite enjoy as a hobby. I think we are good. Put the clutch on there, make sure there's no spaces or gaps. Okay, finished product. Not bad, eh? Don't know how long it'll last, but let's see. It's got to look better than those cracked yellow things that were there before. I'm quite pleased with that. I think I'll go into the wrapping business. This morning I've taken delivery of our Jordan series Drogue. A Drogue is used in extreme weather to slow the boat down and keep it square to the oncoming waves. Without a Drogue, a boat can get side onto the waves and be rolled over. or it can surf down the wave face, burying the bow in the trough, and then get pitch poled. Both scenarios are pretty catastrophic. Older style drogues consisted of one large parachute on the end of a road line, whereas a series drogue consists of hundreds of tiny cones distributed over the full length of the road line, with a weight on the tail end. This gives a smooth yet constant pull on the road, allowing the crew to be safely below decks until the storm is over. And here we have a chain as a weight on the end, then hundreds of these little parachutes on Dyneema line, and then it comes up to even thicker Dyneema line with even more parachutes until we get to the bridle. Green on the port, red on the starboard, nicely done with anti-chafe for going through the cleats at the back. Having it done in Dyneema meant half the weight of having it done in nylon, but it's still 60 kilograms. Quite a monster. When you look at an individual cone, you can see the amount of work that's involved in building these things. There's 174 of these cones, and the whole thing is 365 feet long. No wonder it costs quite a bit. Let's hope I never have to use it. Meanwhile, Trophy Corner is re-established with all the bits and pieces that I need to finish servicing. Ray's done a nice job for the mast top here. This is out of very, very dense glass fibre, and it is going to sit on top of the mast top like that. So we have the Windex on this end, and then the whole thing can be sealed so we don't get any of that dirty, salty rainwater just pouring down inside, which we have had in the past. So I've got the universal joint out here. We're going to try and de-rust it a bit and just clean up these bolts, ready to put them back nice and clean. So this is the CV joint that goes between the engine and the Aquadrive. You see it can move. It was a bit rusty, so I've de-rusted it, de-greased it, and now I'm going to apply some of this rust neutralizer before I give it a little bit of a tart up with some paint. It's pretty nasty stuff, so I've got all my PPE on, my gloves, my hat, my coveralls, my safety glasses, or you can just be very careful. Make sure I don't splash it in my face. So this is our Aquadrive unit. I want to get the top off because in Lanzarote some idiot tried to take it off without knowing what the hell they were doing, and they disturbed this lip seal, and I don't know what else they disturbed. Certainly this ring's sticking out more than it used to. Anyway, I don't want to take the prop shaft off for quite a while, so I want to get in there and see what's going on. Problem is, you have to have a special jig tool that goes into these lips here, and guess what? I don't have it. They want to charge me $500 for one of those tools and 10-week delivery time. I haven't got that sort of time or patience, so I'm going to try to make myself a tool. I'm using this piece of aluminium bar. Because this is aluminium, it's softer than the steel. If anything goes wrong, it's going to damage the aluminium, not the steel. This damn Aquadrive is really beating me, so I made this little adapter which goes in there quite neatly, and I had that in the vise, and we turned and we turned with cheetah bars and it just would not budge. So I thought, okay, I'll send it away for service. Called the service center in US. Nope, we don't do service. Looks like I'm on my own, and we're definitely not going to be buying a new one, so there we go. Looks like it needs a bit of a clean-up. Bit of a degrease, so we can see what's going on. Okay, now I have adapted an old spark plug socket to get over this, and I have my impact driver but it's not doing anything. Nothing. I think we shall be applying heat and penetrating oil for a few days and see how we get on. First success of the day, and it's nearly finished today. I managed to get the end off of this CV joint, and the grease in here still looks very good. I didn't really have any concerns with it anyway. The bellows are all good, so I think this one we are just going to leave well alone. What do you say? Should I take it apart just for the fun of getting covered in grease? I don't think so. So back to the story of the Aquadrive. I still can't get the nut off, and we had goodness knows how much torque on there, goodness knows how much heat on here, and it just will not come off. So I've found a place in New Jersey that will have a go at taking it apart and servicing it. He reckons 3 to 4 hours work. The problem is, I was thinking I could just leave it and put it back, but I put so much penetrating oil in there now that the bearing is probably full of penetrating oil, which obviously isn't good. So it's either got to come apart or it's got to get junked. I hate to admit defeat, but some things you just cannot do with an outside workshop without proper vices and benches, and so it's going away in a box to New Jersey. Now look at this for service. On Monday, Hallberg Rassy sent me a whole bunch of parts, and today is Wednesday and they're here. 2 days, Sweden to Maryland. Pretty damn good. It's always like Christmas when this comes. Thank you, Ludwig. Packed on Monday, arrived on Wednesday. Ooh, what have we got? Seals for the Volvo strainer. We have got a seals kit for the rudder. Wow, not much there when you consider how expensive it is. That's for the lower rudder bearing. A new oil tank for the swim platform. What else? Oh, new rubber for the stern locker. Impeller for the deck wash. A new PSS shaft seal. Wonderful. It was a bit more flexible than the last one. This must be the Selden, the dreaded Selden parts. So this should allow me to fix the hydraulics. Oh, that's a seal kit for the outhaul cylinder. This is a seal kit for the backstay. Man, there's a lot of seals in there. Grease. Some new side caps. Look at that. Sexy. Sexy, sexy, sexy. Oh, I'm looking forward to doing these hydraulics now. New stickers. It's gonna look like new when it's done. So now the Hallberg Rassy shipment's arrived. I've got all sorts of projects to do. So this is the first one, a new seal for the top of the raw water filter for the main engine. I have polished this up a little bit, and of course you can't just put it on there, you've got to clean it off first. I think that's the maximum I can get to with the electric jolt. Now we have to go to hand. It's always easy just to do things easily, like just throw that new rubber in there. But wire brushed it out, and now with my adapted Dyson Hoover, this is all nice and clean. Vaseline or petroleum jelly. Multiple uses on a boat. Always useful to have on board. There we go. Now it's in there. On goes, the rubber's gone in there already. This is the rubber for the top. Okay, that goes on there. The observation plate goes on top. And then we have 8 sexy little knobs that screw it all down. Wow, this is probably, even though I had to clean it and spend a bit of time, it's probably been the quickest job to tick off my list. This is my torqueometer. Let's make sure I get the same torque on each one. That's about exactly 0.326 foot-pounds. Perfect. Lovely! Job done. Ticked. So we just received the new service kit for the PSS seal from PYI Inc. So this is the bellows. This goes on the stern tube this end. This carbon piece here goes inside the bellows. Attached to there is a hose to give it positive water supply because this cannot run dry. And then this stainless steel rotor with 2 O-rings in the middle is locked onto the shaft. And the bellows and this pushes just gently on this face, and that gives you a total dripless seal in theory. Now I've just called PSS Inc. and they had a look at this and they said they recommend I actually change it. So rather than risking drips after all this effort, I'm going to change this piece as well. They're going to send a new one. Interestingly, one thing I found out is that you get 2 each of these lock screws in each one of these holes. Previously I'd taken one out and thought that it hadn't freed up. Actually there's another one sitting underneath it. So this one locks onto the shaft and then the second one locks onto the top of this to make sure it stays locked on. So there's actually 2 of those inside here. So for anybody else who tries to take this off and just takes one out and finds out it won't move, there's a reason for that. You've got to take the second one out. So with the kit, you literally get the bellows, the O-ring seals that go inside the stainless steel rotor, some Loctite, even an Allen key, and quite sweetly, little ends to go onto your pipe clamps, like that, with PYI on them. I thought that was quite a nice little touch. Anyway, I'm not going to put it back on yet because I'm going to paint around where this goes, and I've got to wait for this new one to come in, and then we'll put it all on and it'll all be nice and spoofy and shiny. This is where I've taken out the Aquadrive and the PPS seal, and as usual with me, I can't put it back with it looking messy like this. So I'm going to give it a quick sand and paint it with some nice grey paint. And there we are, first coat on. Now I've got to try and colour match to the light grey on the next coat. It's going to be tricky. Today I'm going to install the Gori propeller on the shaft. The shaft is out of the boat at the moment, but that's not a problem. I'll just stick it on the end. Well, first of all, there's the rope cutter, which is frankly pretty useless. We have the sleeve. We have the nut that actually goes onto the prop along with this wood rough key. That's secured on by this big ass nut here, which is a new one because the last one I galled up a little bit. And then of course the propeller's there. The whole thing's just been to AB Marine in New England to be refurbished. After 12 years I thought it would be a good idea just to make sure that all the tolerances are still good, because anything happens to this propeller, like bits fall off of it, we're in deep doo-doo. Anyway, it came back. It had top marks and it's ready to go for another 10 years apparently, as long as I'm careful with it. First off, it's time to get greasy. Grease everything up nicely so that hopefully it'll come off easier next time. This doesn't need much grease, that can go on. sit just there for now. So let's get this all nicely greased up here, especially in where the woodruff key goes. I'm not sure if this woodruff key is steel or stainless steel. Whatever it is, it never seems to rust. By the way, I may look like I know exactly what I'm doing here, and I kind of do because I've done it so many times, but every time I do it, I still go and look at the schematics, the diagrams, make sure I remember. Now, to line up the groove with the woodruff key, like so. And what have I forgotten already? I'm playing numpty. This has to go on first. There. Now the big nut. And the first time I took this off, of course I didn't have the right socket for this, and I messed up the nut trying to get it out. So now I have the right socket from eBay or Amazon or wherever I got it from. Now it says do up very tightly, so I'm going to do up with this impact wrench. Now what it's doing is it's driving it up that shaft on that wedge, so need to make sure it's up there well. I would say that's pretty good. Right, now we have bolts in here which now screw down with Loctite, so these are going to lock that, although we put that nut in the end and we put it in pretty tight. These are going to lock the shaft in like really tight. In you go. Torque them up. Got little points on them, so they'll be digging into that shaft right now. Okay, that is now secure on there. So effectively, that is the propeller hub on. Now the prop just goes onto here. Raise here, so this is pretty heavy, and we'll see if we. This is always difficult to get this bugger on here. Even if you line it up, it just doesn't seem to ever want to go on what you call a damn good fit. That's not lined up. But a knockometer. There we go.
Up, we'll rotate just a square. There we go. Now we're good.
Is it good?
Yep.
All these tongs are exactly the same. You know. There we go. There we go. They'll probably just slip off now and I'll fall on the ground.
Yep.
Okay, so I've just been to see the destruction sheet again. Destruction sheet is what I call an instruction sheet, my sarcastic sense of humour. So this all looks good. So you can see that the two castle nuts don't quite go in there, but that's together, but that's enough. Okay, I'm back with my C-spanner. So I can almost see the hole there. By the way, if you've got a Gori, you've got to have one of these. Just use my knockometer. That looks perfect now. Yep, perfect. Okay. So with that lined up, I'm just going to get the grease out of here because I do not want... Grease and Loctite doesn't really make a good combination, quite frankly. We have fresh cotton bud. You've got to make sure these things are Loctite properly, because if these screws come out, we are in deep doo-doo. That's when blades start falling off. Well, there's so many belt and braces with these Goris, I don't think they'd fall off, but there's potential, let's say. Let's just say it's not healthy to have loose screws. Try to tighten them up. These are the really important ones here. If you lose these, a blade can flip out. If you lose these, this might undo, but highly unlikely. Make sure you use blue Loctite, not red. Red Loctite will be in there forever. Blue Loctite is undoable. And there we are. It's done. Now, I've got some anodes. These are still pretty good, so I'm going to put those back on to go on there. This isn't exactly beautifying it. Putting an old anode on, but there's still plenty of life in these anodes, and they're damn expensive. Because they're special Gori anodes, like 10 times the price of just your normal shaft anode. But let's check the prop. Flips from side to side. The other check I do is to make sure when you hold two, how loose is the other one. It shouldn't move more than 5-6 mil. If it's more than that, you need a bigger spacer washer inside the propeller. The expensive anode I was talking about on the prop is this little one on the tip. It seems to go twice in a season, and they are ridiculously expensive. I hate them. The other expensive anodes, these ones for the fridge, for our Frigoboat fridge. I'll show you where those go. They go here on our keel coolers, and they seem to wear away very quickly as well. So I'm going to change those. These are like $6-7 each. Oh, but better than having everything eroded. Classic, eh? So I have new anodes. Trust they do actually fit in there. Yep. But guess what? The holes are too small for the screws. So I'm going to have to go and drill them out. Always a challenge, even changing anodes. Okay, so it's got the 4 in. I know I put grease behind, and some of you are probably saying, well, don't you need electrical contact between those and the anodes? It's true, you do. The electrical contact comes through the screw with no problem at all, and the grease helps release them afterwards. Job done. Expensive little numbers. Job done. I've taken the Dorade vents off because these were caked, absolutely caked in mildew. I don't know why they should be so susceptible. So just cleaning them all off and then spraying them with this to hopefully kill anything that's on there. Very annoying, but you know, this is our air supply into the boat, so it's got to be clean. So I'm going to give some beautification to these vents that have sort of got a little bit stained and shitty. Bit of primer first. Oh, more wind than I thought there was. Let's see how we get on with some top coat. So having cleaned up all these vents and put a bit of spray paint on the underneath, I'm now going to put them all back together again and Sikaflex the screws back in. So I've got a line of Sikaflex here. I'm just going to dip a screw in it. It's the wrong colour, I know, but you can't see these. And then we'll screw them back in, and hopefully they'll stay sealed for another few years. For those of you who are wondering what these little balls are, which is what I did when I first saw them, it's quite interesting. So they sit there like that normally, and then if the Dorade vent here fills up with water, these balls rise and go into these little recesses here and block the water coming into the cabin. That's the theory anyway. Okay, now the trick is to get this on without knocking all the balls off and without disturbing that O-ring, like so. So you can see now there's a gap between the balls and these holes, which under normal conditions like this lets the air through, but as soon as water comes in, they raise up and close it off. This is how we close it from inside, like that. That's the vent closed. Now, hundreds of screws to put in, so back to time lapse. So that's those done, and you may wonder why there's two here. One's for the bathroom, one's for the bedroom. So they're all nice and solid, no O-ring sticking out. Now I'm going to put the main vent on here, and what I'm going to use for this, I like to be able to get these off easily, so I'm going to just use a touch of butyl tape and bodge over the hole like that. The beauty of butyl tape is it never dries, you can always get it undone, very good waterproofing. This comes on through here. These were nicely cleaned and painted by Ray. Okay, as soon as I've got two in, there it is, done. Okay, so it's not ready because I put this on the wrong way around. That should have been there. Bugger. Okay, anyway, you get the idea. I shall turn that around without the camera on. When we had that nasty jibe and this Mainsheet traveller went clearing off the end and all the balls flew everywhere, we obviously lost some balls, and now I'm trying to get them back in, which is turning out to be a bit of a balls up. I got them all in apart from one, and that has disappeared into this little gap here. So I'm going to start all over again without screaming my head off in frustration. Luckily Ludwig has given me this little piece of track here, which is just to the millimetre long enough to get them all in, because otherwise it is almost impossible to get 52 balls in each side. Here we go, they're all coming out. Balls up, take two. I have my cup of tea. I'm in the cockpit table. I've got this set up. I've got 52 balls, male and female, separated there, and I'm going to put them in without dropping them for once. Okay, whew, I've done it. I've got them all in. 52 each side, and no escapees. Now I shall attempt to slide it onto the track. I had to take this metal protector off from around the Dorade vent because of course nothing's easy. The track wouldn't have gone up there without that on there, and with experience I have protected into this area into a ball capture area, blocking the drain on the scupper and guiding all the balls hopefully into this bin when it all goes wrong. Now that I've done that, it will probably go right. Let's see. First of all, take off the tape from this end very carefully and get this part of the track on. There. Without letting it come backwards, I need to take this tape off. Yep. Ah, lost one! You little mother. Does one ball matter? Probably not. Right. Yes, they're all out, in case you wondered. Balls back in again. Take three. Please, 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 please. God damn it. God damn it. This track is not the right f. That's the problem. Okay, take four. Now I realised that this track is slightly too small, so I have put a very small 1 foot ruler underneath it, which seems to have given it the right size. Let's see. Come on baby, on you come. Come on, let's not piss around this time. Come on. Fucking one's picked up. Okay. Wait for it. Look at the f***ers. Maybe I just won't bother having 52 in each side. I mean, god damn it. Does it have to be perfect? Finally, after so many attempts, I got the little bar steward on. And let's get it to the other end of the track before it falls off again. Oh, there are words to describe that. I've been at that, messing around with those balls. I now have a modification track here with 2 rulers taped to either side. That's how arduous it was. Life isn't easy, sometimes. So these are the end stops for the Mainsheet track, and when I took them out yesterday to put the Mainsheet Traveller on, this thread in here on one of these got stripped. This is alloy and the bolts are stainless. So I've put threaded inserts inside them, locked them in with heavy duty Loctite 275. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of Tef gel on them. Make sure I get this the right way around. Let's hope these threaded inserts worked. I tried them yesterday individually, but I haven't tried them with 2 screws. Now I don't want to do that up too much, because these have to go lock into the track. So this is one end of the track, and these bolts lock down in there, in theory. Job done. I'll do the other end, and then the Traveller can no longer escape, unless we do another stupid jibe. Next video, we rebuild a halyard swivel, take our life raft for service, rebuild the mast hydraulic furling motor, make some modifications to the bow thruster, rebuild the genoa and cutter hydraulic furling motors, make several modifications to the mast top, and find some problems at the masthead. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.